You are listening to Bedtime Dreamy Tales. Subscribe to our channel for new story. Story title, The Magic Ring. Once upon a time, there lived an old couple in a quaint little village, surrounded by rolling green hills and a shimmering river that flowed lazily through the meadows. The couple had a single son named Martin, who was kind-hearted and always ready to help others. Despite their hard work, the couple had only managed to save 200 florins over their lifetime. When the old man passed away, Martin and his mother were left with these modest savings and a heavy heart. As the days went by, their meal was nearly consumed, and they faced the grim prospect of starvation. Martin's mother, determined to make the money last, decided to give him 100 florins and sent him to the town to buy enough meal to last them for a year. When Martin reached the bustling town, he found himself in the middle of a noisy commotion. The meat market was in turmoil, with angry voices and the barking of dogs filling the air. In the midst of the crowd, Martin saw a staghound tied to a post, being mercilessly flogged by the butchers. Overcome with pity, Martin spoke to the butchers, asking why they were beating the poor dog. "He has just devoured a newly killed pig," they replied angrily. "Leave off beating him," said Martin, "and sell him to me instead." The butchers, amused by Martin's offer, derisively said, "If you choose to buy him, we won't take a penny less than 100 florins." "100!" exclaimed Martin. "Well, so be it." He handed over the money in exchange for the dog, whose name was Shurka. When Martin returned home, his mother asked what he had bought. "Shurka, the dog," replied Martin. His mother was furious and berated him for spending their last bit of money on a seemingly useless dog. But Martin, with his gentle smile, assured her that Shurka would prove to be valuable. The next day, his mother gave him their last 100 florins and sent him back to the town, stressing the importance of buying provisions this time. As Martin entered the town, he saw a rough-looking peasant dragging a cat by a string. The poor cat was mewing pitifully. "Stop!" cried Martin. "Where are you dragging that poor cat?" "I mean to drown him," replied the peasant. "He has just killed a goose." "Don't drown him. Sell him to me instead," begged Martin. "Not for 100 florins," said the peasant. "Surely for 100 florins you'll sell it," said Martin, handing over the money. Martin took possession of the cat, which was called Waska. When he got home, his mother was beside herself with anger. "You useless ne'er-do-weel," she exclaimed. "Leave the house at once and go and beg your bread among strangers." Martin, not daring to contradict her, took Shurka and Waska and set off to the nearest village in search of work. On his journey, Martin met a rich peasant who offered him work as a day laborer without wages, but promised that it would be for his advantage if he served faithfully for a year. Martin agreed and worked diligently, giving his all in the service of the peasant. At the end of the year, the peasant led Martin to a barn and pointed to 2 full sacks, one of silver and the other of sand. "There must be some trick about this," thought Martin, choosing the sack of sand. He threw the sack over his shoulders and started out into the world in search of new opportunities. After traveling for many days, Martin reached a great, gloomy wood. In the middle of the wood, he came upon a meadow where a fire was burning. In the midst of the fire, surrounded by flames, was a lovely damsel, more beautiful than anything Martin had ever seen. She called to him, "Martin, if you would win happiness, save my life. Extinguish the flames with the sand you earned in payment for your faithful service." Martin thought it would be more sensible to save a life than to carry around a heavy sack of sand. He emptied the sand on the flames, extinguishing the fire. Instantly, the lovely damsel transformed into a serpent, coiling itself around Martin's neck. "Do not be afraid, Martin," whispered the serpent. "I love you and will go with you through the world. But first, you must follow me boldly into my Father's kingdom beneath the earth. When we get there, remember, he will offer you gold, silver, and dazzling gems, but do not touch them. Ask instead for the ring he wears on his little finger, for in that ring lies a magic power. You have only to throw it from one hand to the other, and 12 young men will appear to do your bidding, no matter how difficult, in a single night." Martin and the serpent traveled until they reached a great rock with an opening just big enough for a man to wriggle through. The serpent turned back into the lovely damsel and led Martin through a long underground passage to a wide field with a magnificent castle built out of porphyry, with a golden roof and glittering battlements. This was the palace of her father, the king of the underworld. The king welcomed his daughter with joy and gratitude to Martin for saving her. He offered Martin gold, silver, and precious stones as a reward. Martin, remembering the serpent's advice, asked only for the ring on the king's little finger. The king gave Martin the ring, with the condition that he must never reveal its magic power. Martin agreed and set out for his old home, where he reunited with his mother. They lived happily together, but Martin soon desired a grander life and decided to marry a princess. Martin sent his mother to the king's court to demand the hand of the king's daughter in marriage. The king, mocking the audacity of the old woman, set a seemingly impossible task. Martin must build a magnificent castle opposite the royal palace, joined by a bridge of pure crystal with trees bearing golden and silver apples and birds of paradise in the branches. A church with 5 golden cupolas must stand beside the bridge, and the wedding festivities must be held in the new castle. If he failed, both Martin and his mother would be tarred and feathered and executed. Martin's mother returned home in despair, but Martin reassured her. He summoned the 12 youths by throwing the ring from one hand to the other and gave them the king's commands. By morning, the task was accomplished. The king, though disappointed, honored his promise and gave his daughter's hand in marriage to Martin. Martin was made a duke, and the grandest wedding feast was prepared. Despite the luxury and happiness Martin enjoyed, the princess was unhappy and sought to rid herself of Martin. She coaxed Martin into revealing the secret of his power and, using a potion, put him to sleep and stole the magic ring. She summoned the 12 youths and commanded them to return Martin's humble hut, place him inside, and transport her to a distant kingdom. The next morning, the king found the palace, bridge, and church gone, replaced by Martin's old hut. Martin was imprisoned in a high stone tower without food or drink. His faithful friends, Shurka and Waska, devised a plan to help him. Shurka caused a baker to drop his tray of rolls, which Waska carried to Martin. They then set off to retrieve the magic ring. In the distant kingdom, Waska befriended the mice in the palace and convinced the king of the mice to steal the ring from the princess. The tiny mouse succeeded, and Waska and Shurka returned to Martin with the ring. Martin summoned the 12 youths and restored the castle, bridge, church, and his luxurious life. He forgave his wife at the king's request, and they lived happily together ever after. Martin's mother joined them, and Shurka and Waska remained his loyal companions. Martin never let the ring out of his possession again, ensuring a life of happiness and prosperity. If you like this story, please give this video a like. For more stories, go to bedtimedreamytales.com. See you in the next story.